backdrop for now. We're probably going to come in and add an image environment, but let's see what it looks like when we use a gradient backdrop. There we go. If we kind of toggle back and forth, we can see we're getting some nice little blue color highlights, and we can see where the gradient is taking place, and it's kind of lightened that area up a little bit. Okay, and say I don't want so much green in the glass. Well, I can come over to the dielectric options, and for absorption, I'm going to bring that down. Let's just go low, 0.25, and let's see what that looks like in the render. Okay, and still about, it added 0.1, so 12.8, 13 seconds. We're still getting, this is looking a little bit more like glass to me. I'm really liking the look of this. But you know what? What if we wanted to, well, if we wanted it to be a lot more green, we would just raise that absorption. But I'm liking just the hint of color in there. But what if we want liquid in there? We want to kind of dress this up and throw some kind of liquid in the glass. Let's go back over to Modeler, and I'm just going to go to Layer 1, and let's put some kind of liquid in here. So I'm going to select this geometry, and I'm going to expand my selection, and let's say that's enough. Copy, paste. So now I'm in Layer 3. Select these, P for polygon, flip. So this is going to be my liquid. But what I'm going to do is, because it's right on top of it, and that could be okay, but I'm just going to size it a little bit. Just sizing it a little bit down, sizing it down. And I'm going to bevel this top polygon so that I get just a little bit of an edge there. Okay, and we need to give this a separate surface, so Q, and I'm going to call this drink, for lack of a better name, and just so I have a different color, orange, and I'm going to synchronize that over to layout. Come over to layout, and I'm going to close this. Actually, I'm going to copy this, close this down. I just want to do a quick little rotate. Yep, I can see back in here I do have that in there, so it did send it over when I synchronized it. Come over to the drink surface, activate the nodes. Let's paste that same node, and I'm going to just plug it in. Okay, so kind of has some of the same settings. I'm going to change the color of the drink. Okay, maybe something like this, kind of whiskey type, tequila type color. Okay, and for absorption, I'm not quite sure what setting to use, so I'm going to go back to 1 and see what that looks like. And we can play with some of the other settings, but let's just see what render we're going to get here. Okay, so at about 1 minute and 10 seconds, and now we've got our glass, and we've got some liquid in there, and that's looking pretty nice. But you know what? I want to dress it up a little bit more, and instead of just using that gradient, why don't we add an image in the environment, so that we can just dress it up just a little bit more. So Control F5, I'm going to turn off the gradient, and under Add Environment, I'm going to add Image World, and I'm just going to choose an image. It's not an HDRI image, it's just a regular image, and we'll actually take a look at what the image is, but I'm just adding it here. Close that down. Let's go over to the image editor, and it's just this image. It's a scene from the Tofu the Vegan Zombie movie. I just wanted something that kind of had some muted colors, but you know, some little highlights here and there, and some things that it can pick up on. Okay, so let's do a render with that. Okay, and we're still at just over 1 minute and 11 seconds, and we've got if we kind of toggle back and forth, we can see just a little more details. It's picking up some. It's taking a little bit of that blue out, and I'm liking that because now we're still in this like terracotta. It's kind of like sepia color and the green tones. And there we go. We've got our glass with some liquid in it. We've got some nice little coloring going on here. But let's dress it up a little bit more. Now we have the dielectric node, and we can we can just use that, or look at all these different inputs. We can adjust it. We have a lot of control that we can do with this. So what I'm going to do is hop over to the glass surface, okay, and let's adjust. Let's play with this absorption, but instead of just changing the value here, let's try, while we're at it, let's just try a blue color, and we can keep it green, but let's make it blue. And then for the absorption, instead of changing this value, let's use a gradient. So I'm going to come over and add a gradient, double click, and let's make the input y coordinate, so we'll use the height of the glass, and let's just, instead of 1, let's set that to something like 4, so we have some more room to work with here. Okay, and we'll set 0 down here. We'll set that to, let's just try 20, or let's try 25, and then we'll make another key at 25, and we'll say somewhere around here, and then right here let's go really high. Let's go 300. Okay, it's going to be a high value for the absorption, and we won't know what it looks like until we give it a go. So I'm going to plug the color, and actually I'm changing the alpha value, so I'm going to plug the alpha into the absorption. Okay, and let's take a look at what this is going to look like. Okay, so 1 minute and 13 seconds, and now we've got a lot more absorption up here, so we're seeing a lot more of that color, and then less as it gets down to 0. So we can really dress up the glass. If we wanted to, we could come over and feed procedural or an image map into the bump and add a little bit of roughness to the glass. It wouldn't have to be so smooth. But that's just a quick look at adding a glass surface, and as you can see, we can add liquid to it, and we can just keep dressing this up. But with the dielectric node, it really makes making a glass surface that much easier, and I think you'll have a lot of fun experimenting with the options and coming up with your own glass surface. If you want a more realistic look of glass, where the liquid is meeting the glass, well, what we can do is we can either size up the liquid in layout, or actually let's go over to Modeler. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this. We'll head over to Modeler, and again, we could size up the liquid, but just so that we make sure that the liquid is touching the glass, I'm just going to come over here and drop that liquid in the background. Select these polys just like we did before. I'm just expanding my selection. I'm going to copy and paste, grab these points, P for polygon, flip, and let's give that the same surface, drink. And I'm going to copy, actually I'm going to cut, come over to layer 3, delete, paste, and so now we know that that's going to touch right up against the glass. And let's synchronize layout. We'll head over to layout, and let's go ahead and do a render. Now, we're not going to change anything other than changing the placement of that glass. Same setup as before, so we'll just use F9. And now we get a much more, let's go ahead and hit continue. Now we get a much more realistic look of the way the liquid should appear with the glass. So depending on what kind of look you're going for, you can go between this and this. This is a little more artistic. Reminds me of when I used to use an airbrush and do illustrations of liquid in glass, and this would be a little more realistic. So depending on the look you're after, you may want to keep the geometry of the liquid right up against the glass. Don't forget to try the dielectric node on things other than, say, a glass with liquid in it. Here's an example. This is just using the exact same setup and using the liquid settings that we had in the drink in that glass. I've just applied it to this little gecko character model and ended up with a really cool looking glass figurine. So you'll want to experiment, and you'll come up with some pretty cool stuff.